I've tested a lot of amplifiers over the years, budget amps, expensive hi-fi systems, even crazy audiophile gear. But nothing prepared me for this tube amplifier. The moment I turned it on and those glowing tubes lit up the room, I already knew this was going to be different. But what shocked me wasn't just the look. It was the sound, the warmth, the depth of vocals, the way music suddenly felt more alive. It honestly caught me off guard. In this video, we're testing one of the most insane tube amplifiers I've ever used to find out if tube amps are actually magical or just overhyped nostalgia for audiophiles. And trust me, by the end of this video, you might start looking at amplifiers very differently. Dayton Audio HTA200. The Dayton Audio HTA200 hybrid tube amplifier is the kind of amplifier that completely changes your expectations the moment you turn it on. Before even hearing a single song, it already feels different. The glowing vacuum tubes, the warm amber lighting, the large analog VU meters, and the heavy retro-inspired design instantly create the feeling that you're dealing with something special, not just another modern amplifier. And honestly, that's exactly why this amplifier fits perfectly into a topic like, I tested the most insane tube amplifier. I wasn't ready. Because the experience is not just about sound. It's about atmosphere, emotion, and the feeling the amplifier creates the second music starts playing. What makes the HTA200 so interesting is that it blends two completely different worlds together. It's a hybrid tube amplifier, meaning it combines vacuum tubes in the preamp stage with a powerful Class A/B solid-state amplification section. So instead of sacrificing practicality for tube sound, you actually get both. You get the warm, smooth, almost emotional character that tube amps are famous for. But you also get enough power and reliability from modern speakers and everyday listening. With around 100 watts per channel, this amp has no problem filling a room with rich, dynamic sound while still maintaining that classic tube personality. DaytonAudio.com. And honestly, the first thing that shocks people about this amplifier is how alive music feels through it. Vocals sound bigger and more natural. Guitars feel warmer, and instruments seem to carry more emotion compared to ultra-clean digital amplifiers. The sound isn't razor-sharp or hyper-analytical. Instead, it's smooth, spacious, and relaxed in a way that makes you want to keep listening for hours. Even average recordings somehow become more enjoyable, because tube amplification tends to soften harsh edges and add a sense of richness that many people describe as addictive. But here's the part that really makes this amplifier insane. It's not just the sound, it's the experience of using it. In today's world, most modern amplifiers look cold and minimal. Small black boxes, digital screens, and invisible technology. But the HTA200 feels mechanical, physical, and emotional. The tubes glow in the dark. The VU meters move with the music. And every listening session feels more like an event than background noise. And that changes the relationship people have with their audio systems. You stop thinking about specs and measurements and start focusing on how the music makes you feel. At the same time, this amp also reveals why tube amplifiers remain so fascinating even in modern hi-fi culture. Technically, there are cleaner and more accurate amplifiers out there. But tube amps like the HTA200 are not chasing perfect measurements. They're chasing musical enjoyment. They intentionally add a little warmth and character that makes the sound feel more emotional and human. And surprisingly, that's exactly what many listeners end up preferring once they hear it in person. The HTA200 also comes loaded with modern features like Bluetooth, USB DAC, optical inputs, subwoofer output, and phono input support, which means you're not stuck with old-school limitations. DaytonAudio.com. So while it looks vintage, it still works perfectly in modern setups. And that combination of old-school emotion with modern convenience is what makes it feel so unique. And honestly, that's why this amplifier fits the title so perfectly. Because when people imagine tube amplifiers, they often expect something outdated, weak, or overly niche. But the Dayton Audio HTA200 completely flips that expectation. It's powerful, emotional, visually stunning, and genuinely fun to use. And once you experience that glowing tube warmth combined with modern usability, you start understanding why so many audiophiles become obsessed with tube sound, and why testing an amplifier like this can completely change the way you think about music. Macintosh MC275. The Macintosh MC275 tube amplifier is not just a tube amplifier. It's one of the most legendary pieces of hi-fi equipment ever made. The moment you see it, you instantly understand why people call it insane. The polished stainless steel chassis, glowing vacuum tubes, massive transformers, and iconic Macintosh design make it feel more like a luxury masterpiece than a normal amplifier. And honestly, before you even hear it, the amplifier already creates a feeling that most modern gear simply can't match. That's exactly why it fits perfectly into the topic. I tested the most insane tube amplifier. I wasn't ready. Because this thing doesn't just play music, it creates an experience. What makes the MC275 so special is the way it delivers sound. Unlike modern ultra-clinical amplifiers that focus only on precision, this amp focuses on emotion, warmth, and musicality. Vocals feel incredibly alive, instruments sound rich and smooth, and the overall presentation has this huge, almost holographic feeling that makes music feel more immersive. It's not about hearing every tiny detail in an analytical way. It's about feeling connected to performance itself. And that's the magic tube amplifiers like this create. At around 75 watts per channel, it may not sound as powerful as some massive modern amps, but the way it controls speakers feels effortless and smooth. Macintoshlabs.com. Even many audiophiles describe the MC275 as one of the few amplifiers that makes them stop focusing on equipment and simply enjoy listening again. And honestly, that's what separates this amp from normal hi-fi gear. It has personality. But the craziest part is the emotional impact it creates. The warm glow of the tubes, the vintage-inspired design, and the smooth analog sound make every listening session feel cinematic. In a world full of cold digital audio, the MC275 feels human. And once people experience that combination of luxury, warmth, and timeless tube sound, they finally understand why amplifiers like this became legends in the audio world. Douk Audio ST70. The Douk Audio ST70 tube amplifier is the kind of amplifier that instantly grabs attention the moment you see it on a desk or audio setup. The exposed glowing tubes, retro metal design, warm amber lighting, and old-school analog vibe make it feel far more expensive and dramatic than most people expect at this price range. And honestly, that's exactly why it fits perfectly into the topic. I tested the most insane tube amplifier. I wasn't ready. Because even before the music starts, the amplifier already creates that classic tube audio atmosphere audiophiles love so much. What makes the ST70 so interesting is how it brings the tube amplifier experience to people who normally could never afford high-end tube gear. The sound has that classic warm and smooth character that tube amps are famous for. Vocals feel softer and more emotional, instruments sound richer, and the overall presentation becomes more relaxed compared to many sharp-sounding digital amplifiers. Instead of sounding cold or overly analytical, the music feels fuller and more enjoyable for long listening sessions. And honestly, that warm tube personality is what surprises most people first time they hear it. The craziest part, though, is the feeling this amplifier creates while listening at night. The glowing tubes, the vintage look, and the smooth analog sound completely change the mood of the room. It stops feeling like you're simply testing audio equipment and starts feeling like a real music experience. That's something modern minimalist amplifiers often struggle to recreate. Tube amps like this add emotion and personality to the setup itself, and that's why so many people become obsessed with them after hearing one in person. Of course, it's not try to compete with ultra-expensive audiophile tube amplifiers costing thousands of dollars. But that's not the point of the ST70. Its purpose is to deliver that warm, nostalgic, cinematic tube sound in a way that feels exciting, fun, and surprisingly immersive for the money. And once people experience that glowing tube aesthetic combined with rich analog-style sound, they finally understand why tube amplifiers still have such a huge fan base even in modern hi-fi audio culture. After spending hours listening to this tube amplifier, I finally understand why so many audiophiles become obsessed with tube sound. It's not just about technical performance or specs. It's about the experience, the character, and the way the music feels. Now, does that mean tube amplifiers are automatically better than modern solid-state amps? Not necessarily. But they definitely offer something unique that's hard to describe until you actually hear it yourself. And honestly, I wasn't ready for how addictive it could be. But now I want to hear from you. Would you choose tube warmth or modern precision? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around because we're testing even crazier audio gear next.